All right, so I'd like to call the meeting to order. And as is tradition, the superintendent will start this meeting as we reorganize as a school board. Before doing that, I would like to congratulate Deborah and Lana. Welcome to our team. And of course, Sean as well, who ran again, is representing GUilford. That being said, we need to reorganize, so we will take nominations for board chair. Once a board chair is identified, I'll turn the meeting over to whomever that may be. Any other nominations?
Liz has her hand up.
Okay, so we have two nominations, David Scholes. Liz.
No. I was nominating Kelly.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were putting yourself in.
No.
Kelly, okay.
And
Does Liz have something to say, or is she nominating herself?
Liz, go ahead.
Okay. I couldn't hear the nominations, so something's not quite right there. Did Ann get nominated?
We have a nomination of Kelly.
Of Kelly? Okay. I'm fine with that. That's okay.
Okay. So, it looks like,
I'd like to nominate myself.
okay. So we have a nomination of Ann Beekman and Kelly Young. Let's take a vote, and we'll do a vote by hands. So those in favor of Ann Beekman, please raise your hand.
Do we raise our hands online, or I don't understand?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And those in favor of
Mr. Chair, excuse me. This is your board recorder. I need you to tell me how many votes happened if you want me to record it, because I can't see.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
We might need to do individual votes.
Can we see a show of hands for Kelly Young, both remotely and in person? So we have 6. So is that 6 votes for Kelly?
No, I'm not. I'm abstaining from the.
Okay, so that would mean Kelly is our new board chair. And I will turn the meeting over to Kelly.
So I'm new at this, obviously, so I'm going to ask for some patience. I also would like to congratulate Deborah and Lana, and also thank everyone who has run this year and previous years and who has served and continues to serve. So,
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
yes?
Sorry for the interruption. I really can't hear you. If you want me to record this meeting, I need your audio to be mic'd better, or I can't do my job.
Can you put your mask on? Where's our technician?
It's kind of in the best spot of this to catch everyone in the room, so maybe just speak up a little bit then.
Okay, I'll go against my my natural inclination and speak a little louder. Sorry about that. So I just wanted to thank people for running and congratulate Deborah and Lana, and thank all the people who still are on the board. I hope that we can. We have some challenges in the school that we need to deal with, and I hope that we can move forward and take care of those in the best we can. And I also want, before we moved on to anything else, I just want to reiterate something I've said in other meetings, which is the public always has questions, concerns, things they want to draw attention to the board, draw the board's attention to, and I would like to encourage people to send us emails, articles, questions, concerns, whatnot, And sometimes that's easier for us to see them ahead of time, and maybe then we can address them at the meetings, or sometimes not even at the meetings. So from that, I guess we go to the nominations of the vice chair, and I would like to nominate Ann Beekman.
I'll second.
Any other?
Me. I'd like to nominate David Scholes.
Okay, so we have Ann Beekman and David Scholes. Any other nominations? Okay, so all those in favor of Ann Beekman?
One here.
All those in favor of David Scholes?
One here.
Okay, so it looks like David is the vice chair.
Madam Chair, this is your board recorder speaking. Do you want a count on that vote in the minutes? Because if you do, you need to tell me what the numbers are, please.
Yeah, so on the first one, there was one online, one here. For David, there were 3 here and 1 online.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the number for David. What was that number you said?
3 here and 1 online. Now we go to the nomination of the board clerk. Does anyone have a nomination? Michelle?
I'll nominate Tim.
Tim's been nominated for the board clerk. Does anyone else want to nominate?
I'll second that nomination.
Okay.
Madam Chair, who was just nominated? I didn't hear it.
Tim Mayseal.
Thank you. Who nominated Tim?
That was
Michelle.
Michelle. I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Thank you.
Pressure.
So all those in favor of Tim for the board clerk? So there's 4 here and 1 online. Now we move to the nomination of the voting members of the WSESU. For nomination for Brattleboro.
I'd like to nominate David.
Now we have a nomination for David. Any other nominations?
Liz.
Liz?
I'd like to nominate Lana.
You can decline if you want. I'd like to decline.
Okay. Okay, so all those in favor of David for the WSESU voting member from Brattleboro?
Madam Chair, who nominated David, please?
That was Lana,
Thank you.
and there are 3 here and 1 online. For the town of Dummerston,
I'll nominate me.
okay. Tim Mayseal has nominated Michelle for the town of Dummerston. Any other nominations? All those in favor of Michelle? 4 and 5 here and 6 here and 2 online. The town of GUilford.
I'll nominate Kelly.
Anyone, I've been nominated for the town of GUilford. Anyone, any other nominations?
Who made the nomination, please, Madam Chair?
Michelle?
Thank you.
All those in favor of me for the SU board? 6 here and 2 online. For the town of Putney.
I nominate Liz
Kelly?
Adams.
Yes.
Could I offer a suggestion for those online so Wendy doesn't have to keep asking? Could people just say their name when they're doing it?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
I nominate Liz Adams. This is Ann.
Any other nominations? All those in favor of Liz Adams for WSESU for the town of Putney? 5 here and 1 online. So now we need to establish meeting days and time. Does anyone have any suggestions other than what we have been doing?
I move that we maintain the current schedule.
So moved.
Okay, so Tim.
That was Tim.
Second.
I have a question. Can you just define what this current schedule is for those of us who are new to the board, please?
The second and fourth Thursdays of every month from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Tuesday, what did I say?
Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So,
There is a hand up.
sure.
Jamie has her hand up.
You're on, Jamie.
Hey, sorry. I wanted to just check in because I stopped attending business meetings when COVID hit. I didn't know your rotation schedule now that you're meeting in person, and in the past, you were meeting in the towns, at the town schools, as well as in Brattleboro. Is that still the rotation? And if so, what is that rotation?
I can speak to that.
Okay.
We had our first attempt, Jamie, to meet in another school location. We went to Dummerston, and we had incredible technical difficulties to have the BCTV and the Zoom set up, the bandwidth with everyone being in there. And so we decided this was going into the holiday time that until we can make sure that we had appropriate technology in place, and so long as we have the Zoom option, that it would be better to keep the doors open and keep meeting here at the high school. Does that answer your question?
So are you saying at this point, all school board meetings in person are in Brattleboro?
I think so long as we can have a Zoom remote option, yes.
I would just extend an invitation to Putney Central School, which has a Zoom option. We've held meetings there in the past, and I think with great success. So I'd like to ask that that's considered, and the rotation schedule happens again, please.
Maybe we can just confirm with the administration there that they would be prepared for that, and then maybe we can try to.
Yeah, it'd be wonderful to get back to other schools if we can make it work. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Emily had her hand up, so she.
Add that to the agenda.
Emily, did you have something that you wanted to say?
No, that was my voting hand.
Oh, okay.
Do we vote on this?
Yep, okay, so now we're gonna vote on keeping the date and time of the meetings the same as we had. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so that was Michelle?
Sorry. Yep.
And David, did you?
Aye, yeah.
And so that would be 6 here and 2 online. I should say
Madam
that.
Chair, was that a motion that needed to be seconded? And if so, did it get seconded? I didn't catch it.
I seconded it. Wendy, Michelle did.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy, for keeping us on track.
I want to make sure my minutes are good. You're welcome.
So now we're going to go to the approval of the minutes for December 14th, January 25th, February 8th, 24 and 28, and for the finances, the warrants of February 7th, 2022 in the amount of $926,348.01. February 14th, 2022 in the amount of $217,000. $217,303.23. February 22nd, 2022, in the amount of $170,277.68. February 28th, 2022, in the amount of $49,778.80. And then payroll for February 11, 2022, in the amount of $1,373,178.16. And lastly, February 25th, 2022, in the amount of $1,440,899.53. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes and the finances?
So moved. David.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. Michelle?
All those in favor of the consent agenda, including the minutes and the finances, please signify by saying aye.
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 And online?
I got at least one eye.
Okay, so all those opposed? Two opposed or what?
I think Emily's was.
Sorry, no, I was not opposed. My thing is delayed.
Okay, so it appears that it was unanimous to approve the consent agenda. Then we move to the public comment on non-agenda items. And we have time budgeted for 10 minutes on this. I guess does anyone have anything for the public comment on non-agenda items?
Yes.
Okay.
From here?
Can you tell us your name and?
Yeah, my name is Benjamin Burr. I'm a sophomore at Brattleboro Union High School. And we, the students, strongly support Mark Spino to continue leading our district in the position of superintendent. Mr. Spino is a student-focused leader who represents teachers and administration with great integrity. During his time as interim superintendent, Mr. Spino has created a stable, compassionate, and just school environment. In such a distressing time, it is Mr. Spino's compassionate leadership which has prioritized the well-being of our students. We ask that he be provided with the conditions he needs to lead confidently in the years to come and continue to excel at creating a strong and united district community.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other?
It'd be nice if you could sign up.
I got 3 hands up.
Okay, so I just want to say one thing. Thank you for coming tonight and sharing that with us. I do want to encourage you to participate in the supervisory union meetings, because that's really where the superintendent is selected. That's their role in this. So thank you for coming and voicing that, and I would encourage you to participate in their meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jamie's up first.
Hi, my name's Jamie Comtois, Putney Central School parent. And I had my own remarks, but also had the remarks of Heather Brubaker, who asked for me to read her. She is in class tonight and can't be here. We're both mothers of 4-year-olds who cannot be vaccinated. Heather is the mother of a child who has a rare bone marrow disorder, and is not, both kids are uneligible or not eligible yet for vaccination. And her remarks, I'll start with hers. The COVID risk level today is meaningfully different from what it was in mid-January during the Omicron surge. That is cause for celebration. I understand the impulse to get back to normal and agree that developmentally it is important for children to be able to see each other and their teachers' faces. I am confident that the move to unmask outside at school is safe and reasonable. I'm grateful that our school chose to begin removing mitigation efforts in a step-by-step fashion, rather than all at once. I'm also grateful for everything our school faculty and staff have done to keep our students and families safe these last 2 years. Your efforts are heroic. I am concerned that complete unmasking in school is premature. I would feel more confident about removing the indoor mask mandate for all kids if our county was consistently in the low or green level of the CDC community COVID-19 levels for a few weeks or a month. Windham County is currently medium, as are most of the surrounding counties. Can we use data-driven approach addressing whether we mitigate strategies in our schools? I would feel more confident removing the indoor mask mandate if it was paired with continued surveillance testing in schools that could look like weekly PCR tests or take-home rapids. I'm concerned that without either mitigation strategy, we will have no way of detecting and preventing outbreaks before they have spread, particularly among our 0 to 4-year-olds who are not eligible for vaccination and have the highest rate of pediatric COVID-related hospitalizations. Many families of young children have spent 2 full years forgoing public life to keep our kids safe. These kids have not eaten in restaurants, gone to birthday parties, gone to museums, or even to the grocery store. They have learned to mask at school and been endlessly resilient and adaptable with the disruptions to their schedules. The burden on parents, particularly those of us with high-risk kids or family members, has been extraordinary. We want normalcy as much as maybe more than anyone, but we also want to be able to continue sending our kids to school without an undue burden of risk. None of these asks are extraordinary. We are just asking for reasonable data-driven decision-making. So I just ask that we return to what is even on the Vermont Department of Health website today, which is that we reach the 80% vaccination rate, that we at least get to the point where children like my child actually have the option of being vaccinated, which we're waiting till April now, or that we even look at the data from the last 2 years and notice that the numbers aren't truly low until May, June, and July. So we're asking for you to exert your power as a school board to make sure that all of our schools are safe for all of our children.
Trustee Wheel is next.
Hi, thank you so much. I heard a previous speaker speak to their dismay about a lack of superintendent and just wanted to echo that feeling. I recognize that this is maybe not the decision-making board, but I did want to let you know that staff are feeling very frustrated about a lack of leadership coming into the 2022-2023 school year. We've had a year with really strong leadership, with concise decision-making, which has been really great for our morale. And I would encourage you to keep that in your hearts and minds as you think about what impacts a lack of leadership will have on our next school year.
Jody Normanville is next.
Hi, this is Jody Normanville from Dummerston, and I'm a long-term school board member over the years for my children and for my grandchildren. And I just want to welcome Deborah and Lana to the school board. I'm excited to have 2 such wonderful candidates, and I can't wait to see what comes out of the school board with them on it. So thank you. Thank you for running.
Thank you, Jody.
And Shauna is next.
Hi, Holly Aguilar, Putney Central School parent. I'd just like to echo the sentiments of Jamie and also point out that recently there was a great deal of data reviewed via Omicron coming out of New York State that was presented to the Committee over Infectious Diseases at the CDC. And this data shows that in the 5 to 11-year-olds, that the vaccine is not showing with the efficacy that would be expected. And that we are looking at, while vaccine is still very important, looking at the fact that masking is going to be our greatest point of control. So we also echo her sentiments about looking at data-driven masking regulations. Thank you.
And Robin.
Hi, thanks. I was also a little bit nervous to see that the mask rule is being lifted, and I was disappointed in the way that was communicated, that this is about students respecting each other's personal choices. I would love to see this conversation be more about how we take care of ourselves as a community and about how we protect each other, and looking at the access that this creates or the barriers that it creates for our most vulnerable students and staff. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jessica Thurber-Gould, and I am here as a parent and as a, speaking as a parent, but I'm also the Leadership Council Board Chair for BUHS. We have had a lot of discussion on the Leadership Council in the last 24 hours because a lot of people on our council would also like to support Mark Spino to be given a contract as a superintendent. We understand that a consensus was not reached and that he continues as interim. That's unacceptable to us. We need stability in this supervisory union. We don't want to go back to 2021 when we didn't have stability in this union. I haven't spoken with Mark personally. This is my personal opinion. Mark has done an excellent job leading us. He's calm, he's consistent, he is student-centered. That's what we need to lead us. And he is also raises up the voices of historically marginalized people, women, people of color. So I think the board would be proud to put him in a position because he would then raise up people underneath him. You need that, and we need stability in this school district. So I am here as a parent, but I'm also here representing a lot of the people on the Leadership Council that Mark needs to be given a contract. And yes, you've all received my letter. Kelly, you said that you wanted people to write you letters. You got one. Yes. And I will definitely go to the WSESU meeting, but we just elected people, so I know you're here. So that's why we're here. I'd also like to introduce other students that are here that did not speak. Allie Ford and Eva Gould, and Ben Berg did not also say that he is a member of the Student Council, and he's also a member of the Leadership Council. We have a vibrant student on our Leadership Council. We have 6 or 7 that consistently come. They come more than the adults. They speak up more than the adults. We have a great Leadership Council, and they're the ones that make me brave to go and do this because they're way braver than me. So I appreciate them, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you. So I don't want to set a precedent that during the non-agenda items that we would be responding, because I think in the past we had allowed them to be items that we weren't going to respond to necessarily. But I do want to say, again, I'm happy to hear that you're going to try to contribute to the SU board or attend the meetings. And there was one of the other people online who expressed similar sentiments. I would again encourage you to try to participate in the SU meetings, attend or communicate with them in whatever way you feel is appropriate. And there were a few people who were asking about the issue of masking and other sort of pandemic related things, and I didn't know if maybe, sorry to ask you on short notice, Mark, but maybe you might have some information update or just some thoughts on that.
Sure. So from the very beginning of the pandemic, we have chosen to follow guidance from our Vermont Department of Health professionals. And as of March 14th, which is next Monday, the guidance set forth by the VDH and the Agency of Education is that masking should become optional in schools. So I sent a message last Friday conveying those sentiments to our communities that we would continue to follow VDH guidelines. There will be another communication sent out likely Thursday from our COVID coordinator, kind of laying out what that looks like in our schools and what our capacity is around testing for staff and families. But currently staff are able to test at least twice a week, and we have many supplies that we are able to send home to families if needed to track testing. So that is where we are currently, based on information that we've received from the VDH.
Do we have any stats on vaccination rates among students?
Do we have updated vaccination rates for students?
Yeah.
I don't have them off the top of my head. Maybe principals do, I think.
BU6 campus is at 78.4%.
And BU6 campus, so that would be the high school, middle school, and career center combined.
Thank you.
And are we in a position to deviate from those guidelines? Are we able to have stricter guidelines if we wanted?
We could. Like I said, I have been the one making this call from the beginning, and I have been informing the community on a regular basis, and we have chosen to follow the VDH guidelines from the beginning.
I'm wondering if it's possible to have different guidelines for the younger groups in class, the groups who aren't allowed to get able to get vaccinated yet. If that's a possibility to think about.
Yeah, so there will be another communication coming out to the community. Mine was more of an announcement, giving an update on the VDH guidance, but there will be more specifics around how that'll look in our schools coming out at the end of this week through our COVID coordinator.
Mark, I just want to, something that came up at the Dummerston Leadership Council, it makes so much sense, and as a mom, I'm guilty of this myself, is just parents, if you haven't had to send in your vaccination information, you might not have it. If your kid wasn't a close contact, you might not have done the paperwork. And so I would just, I think, urge our community and do an outreach that if your child was vaccinated and you're yet to submit it, it's not too late, and it really supports community feeling safe. I'll get my last kid in, I promise, but I think that's just normal life stuff that could, we might see our numbers shift if people get on that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I would hate to see folks' freedoms be at the expense of someone else's health and well-being and, you know, ability to be safe and actually attend school.
I think, if I could respond to that, I think the data we're getting is coming, so we're not judging that based on the cards that we receive from families, it's based on the registry with the state. So when they get vaccinated, it goes into a registry. Yeah,
that's
so
the COVID one too. Okay,
yeah,
I
so
thought
we
for some
always
reason
know.
that wasn't tied in.
Correct. The only way it doesn't get into that is if they get vaccinated out of state. If they went to Cheshire Medical or something, we would then need their card. But
okay, so we do have accurate numbers.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Emily has her hand up.
Okay.
So I would tend to agree with the folks who've spoken about perhaps different guidelines for the schools that have students who cannot be vaccinated yet. It seems, you know, middle school, high school, if people have chosen not to get vaccinated, it seems to me to be reasonable for if the guidelines are suggesting to remove masks, but for those who don't have an option, you know, I mean, my honest opinion is I'm not so sure that the K to 6 or the preschool to 6 school should really be unmasked at this point if certain kids can't be vaccinated. I think it's, you know, not honoring their rights. So, you know, I would encourage, which I'm sure you're already doing, some really thoughtful processing on that, and maybe some demasking later in the semester when those people can be vaccinated.
Jamie has her hand up. Go ahead, Jamie.
Have I been called on?
You have.
I had reached out to find out if our principal had been consulted or our nurse, and realized that the school staff had not been asked about their position. I Googled New Hampshire, Vermont Department of Health today. Their website still says we need to hit the 80% mark. We need to be masked and vaccinated to mitigate risk of the COVID, of Omicron and other variants in order to ensure public health. And so I'm concerned, particularly with data coming in at the efficacy being less than expected for 5 through 11-year-olds and the inability to be vaccinated till April or May for 4-year-olds, that a top-down approach to this isn't something that can necessarily serve our most vulnerable kids right now, and that our school board looks at what might be an extension of the masking until the community can be more widely requested to what their needs are, school by school, and that we have a more democratic process for such a significant transition in COVID policy that appears to not even be supported by the Vermont Department of Health's data on their website.
Mark, can I ask a question? As far as just where we stand today, we haven't made any decisions about extending mask wearing. So the rule stands that it will be optional next Monday. Can maybe some of the administrators or you talk about the approach that we're going to have with processing the students to ready them for that transition and choice?
Sure. I think I would ask principals to speak to that.
Sure.
But in our, next communication through the COVID coordinator, there will be some guidance around preschools that varies a little bit, just so you know. But maybe start with Nancy. Did you have your hand up?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've already started the process at WRCC of talking to students about mask wearing as a choice, or will be a choice as of the 14th of March. And according to the governor's announcement, and that should we go that route, there will be some people who will continue to mask. And there will be some people who will choose not to mask, that is a personal choice, just as much of a personal choice as any other health and safety choice or any personal choice. It is not our business why somebody makes that choice, but it is our need to honor that choice and be respectful of that choice. And so we've had lots of discussions in classrooms around, lots of discussions in classrooms around that. We do have students that do go out to healthcare facilities as part of the LNA training program. And so they will, of course, need to continue to mask there because they're coming from a large group situation into a very vulnerable population of people who live in a community situation that creates close contact automatically, and they also will continue to test when they go to Thompson House and to BMH. And so that's required as part of their program. Even though they are all vaccinated and everybody but one student is boosted, that student that isn't boosted yet is not yet eligible to be boosted. So we will continue those conversations. And we do have students who have said that they will continue to mask. And we have staff members who will continue to mask. And that is, in fact, as far as I'm concerned, the responsible choice for some people.
At the high school, we are going to continue masking in our intensive services area. That staff is going to continue to wear their masks and their face shields, which they normally do. Our nurses are going to continue wearing their masks in the health office as well, and if students come down to the health office that are symptomatic, they'll be asked to mask as well. As we consider things like concerts and we consider things like, we have a musical coming up, we have a spring concert coming up, we are going to cordon off a section of our auditorium as being a mask, where people want to wear masks, so there will be an area for people who choose to sit with people who are masking, which isn't to say you can't sit anywhere in the auditorium, but we're going to offer a section of the auditorium specifically for people who choose to mask if they want to. We had a staff meeting today, and we actually talked about what does the process look like when you're talking to your students, and preparatory to Monday. And we said much the same thing Nancy said. It's not our position to judge why a person is or is not wearing a mask. Some people may choose to wear a mask in different situations. I may choose to wear a mask in the hallway during passing time. I may not choose to wear it in my classroom. It's really not for us to judge when and how a person chooses to mask. Our message to students is going to be, people wear masks for a lot of reasons. They may have an immunocompromised family member at home, or they may simply be unused to it after 2 years of wearing a mask. So, that's the message that our teachers are going to deliver these next 3 days to get ready for Monday.
And just to clarify, since the first week of school, our nurses have met every Wednesday afternoon after school to track where we are in this pandemic, where we're going, what mitigation strategies we're using. And they have been great leaders for us, and they will continue to do that moving forward. Again, they'll be meeting tomorrow with the COVID coordinator, and we'll be sharing updated mitigation strategies and guidance around masks at intensive service programs, preschools, in nurse's office. So we will do our best to provide that clarity before the end of this week.
Anna Olivier has a hand up.
Hi, my apologies if you can't see me. I think my video isn't working, but I'm Anna Oliver. I'm a parent in Putney and a family nurse practitioner here. My kids will attend Putney Central in the future, and I'm here as a concerned community member wanting to comment on the issue of masks and the mask mandate. The COVID numbers have definitely fallen over the past month, but there is still a lot of COVID circulating, and it is still very much a risk to people who are immunocompromised, older adults, even if they're fully vaccinated, and people with a variety of common medical conditions, many of whom may not even realize that they're at risk. Death isn't the only risk. Hospitalization, missed school and work, the stress of contracting a potentially serious disease, multi-system inflammatory disease in children, and the possibility of chronic symptoms are all also significant risks. The state laid out a benchmark of 80% student vaccination rate in order to discontinue the mask mandate, and then it seems to have been dropped without a clear explanation. We also still have no vaccine for children under the age of 5. Many school-age children live with siblings under the age of 5. So I think now does not seem like the time to drop the mandate, and it does seem like a decision that our community can make. The state doesn't seem to be saying we can't continue to mask, only that they're leaving it up to us. I grew up in Putney. I know how small towns work in Vermont. I think, people go out of their way to support each other, to help their neighbors, to protect vulnerable community members. And we work to teach our children these values as well. And I think right now, what we can do to protect our community and to model these values for our children is to keep the masks on a little longer. Thank you.
So we've gone a little bit longer than I think we had anticipated, or the agenda has anticipated. So, and I apologize, it's my first time, so hopefully going forward I'll be a little bit better about that. But so we have 2 more people online that want to comment, and after that we're going to move on to the administrative reports. So thank you.
Emily.
I'd actually like to hear Kelly first, and then I'll comment.
Okay, Kelly.
Thanks, Emily. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to briefly speak in support of unmasking. I recognize the fear. I am a parent as well, and I work in the school, and I'm around a lot of people every day, and I'm cautious as well. But I think not only are there immense social emotional benefits for kids, there's also academic benefits. Our kids have been trying to learn early literacy skills from their teachers who are masked for a couple of years now. They can't see, the difference between an F sound and a TH sound unless you pull down your mask to show them, for example. So that's one thing. And the other thing I keep thinking about is the recent vote of the select board to demask in all of our buildings around town. Our students are really active community members, and they're engaged in all sorts of sports and activities throughout the community, where they're in close contact with a number of kids from other schools as well as their own school, and perhaps neighboring communities as well. So even if we were to keep the masks on at school, I'm not sure that would continue to mitigate COVID, because the masks are off everywhere else at this point. So I just wanted to bring that up as a point. Thank you.
So I definitely appreciate your comments, Kelly. I was wondering if I could hear from a few folks who are at the elementary level. So I really appreciate that. I guess my inclination still, though, is if kids cannot be vaccinated yet, it seems really unfair, like, not to wait 2 months until people can be vaccinated to just lift the mandate. Like, if we've already had 2 years of schooling that's been affected by it, what is 2 months? I'm just, and I don't know what the other elementary principals think about this, but I'd love, and I don't like going against the administration, but I feel like I'm just going to make a motion that I think that, because I really feel that the elementary school should not be unmasked. And I don't know if this should apply to the whole thing, but I'd love for the board to just weigh in. I haven't heard so many people, so I'm going to move that masking be required for the elementary schools.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I was going to say yes.
Okay, so Liz has seconded, but Julian.
Well, we have to talk first. We have public. Okay. We're talking for public comment. Sorry, right.
So
I just, I really appreciate that and wanting to be proactive and create security, and I think it's such an important decision. But I just think that it's really important that we don't have a knee-jerk reaction, and that we are collecting all the information. We're having a doctor here, and we're having concerned parents, and how they feel matters. I would really like to know where the different schools are at. I would like to know what their outdoor learning schedule is like. How, I want to know how our administrators are determining what their recommendation is before we take any action and make a decision too quickly. I realize we only have a week, and that can be concerning, but I just haven't heard enough from our administrators on how they're processing this. We've heard from the older schools. So that just feels really important to me, to have a complete picture before we start making big decisions without maybe everything in our hands to process and take our time to really make sure we're making the wisest choice, and not just that knee-jerk, what feels safest. Because there are definitely community members and educators that are speaking. My kids want to keep masking, and I'm glad that's easy for me, but I want to make sure that people who feel differently, that they have a voice at the table too, regardless of sort of this voice. So I'd ask us to slow down a little bit there.
Okay. Any other comments from the board, David?
I want to sort of support some of what Michelle said about us not really having all the information that we need, and a really thorough understanding of this. I'm not sure how that can happen before Monday. But it's important to recognize that if the board votes to establish that guideline, that is our statutory responsibility, and that's what's going to happen. And if we make a decision without being fully informed, I think it's probably, we could easily make a mistake.
Sorry, lost my voice. I don't want to burst everybody's bubble, but I don't think we can take an action on something that we haven't warned.
Okay, well, then this has been a nice discussion. It has not been warned, and thank you very much, Ann. I'm going to take this opportunity to say that anyone who has information or tips or anything that they find, or things that I have misstepped, whatever, please feel free to help advise me along the way. Thank you, Ann. So it sounds like this has just been a discussion, and maybe we would need to warn it for a meeting if that's what it was.
Yes, and there's no reason we can't entertain the discussion tonight. We simply can't vote on it.
Okay.
So we can move to public conversation too.
So do we need to have the motion withdrawn, or what's the?
Well, it's
or is it just moved?
Yeah, it's just moved.
Okay.
So
it's out of order.
Yeah. So that motion is out of order, but and And it looks like Julianne did not get a chance to speak, so unless there's a board member that wants
Not a board member.
Okay,
Oh,
so-
now there is a board member.
Okay. The board member.
So I guess what options would be available, Kelly or Ann, or actually anybody, for the board to hear more about this, maybe in a meeting that can be warned, let's say Thursday or something, where we can then ensure that all of the board members feel comfortable moving forward with whatever plans in place. I mean, it's a limited timeline, but I just want to make sure that, you know, we feel comfortable and with this decision.
We can warn another meeting, or we can take it up at our next regular meeting, but we just can't do it today.
I just can't hear Ann.
I'm
Sorry,
so
Ann.
sorry, Emily. We can warn another meeting if that's what everyone wants to have the discussion. But by AOE guidelines, this decision actually rests with Mark.
Mark, did you want to speak before Julianne?
No, I'd like to hear Julianne speak.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for your input in bringing up sort of the democratic process. To your point, Ann, I was just going to say, as principals, we are handling feedback on masking every day. And this is an issue where there is definitely not consensus in our community. We get a lot of feedback constantly about masks and how they're affecting different students in our school communities. And you are not hearing that right now. Those people aren't here because this wasn't warned, and were this to be warned, you get a lot of feedback, quite a lot of feedback, not only from staff but also from students about masks. Both people in favor of continuing masking, but also people who have really come to the point, where they feel like the costs of wearing masks have come to outweigh the benefits, for the school community, the level of exhaustion of students and staff in wearing them, some of the issues that Kelly mentioned. So, I think to get a fair representation, this certainly wouldn't be it. And just to note as well, for the principals, this is a highly stressful issue. This is not something that, it's just easy, everybody masks. It has not been like that at all. Kids have done an amazing job masking, like they have knocked it out of the park, and we tell them that every day, but it has not been easy, and it is a stressor for staff, in general, maintaining the masks, constantly reminding around masks. It's something we talk about all day, every day. So you would find yourself getting a lot of feedback, I think, if a different decision was made around what's going to happen on Monday, because, it definitely, has become something that people definitely have, a different perspective on, and I totally honor and respect both of those, all of the different perspectives people might have on this issue, but it's something that's really been difficult for us to manage that as a school community. It's been very hard.
So I'm gonna ask David and Ann, because you guys both have a lot of experience in this sort of thing. We do have the meeting on the 10th. Could we, it's an executive session, and not on this topic, but could we warn it for the end of that meeting, or could we, or is that
Yes,
reasonable?
we have time. We have time. But
So-
quickly. To make
sure it cuts out there.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, that's an option then.
We could do that, and it would have to be at the end because we've got people that were paying for their time. We're planning the presentations in executive session. But we'd also have to have, I didn't write down everything that Emily suggested for information that would help in the process, so we'd have to find out if that's a realistic request from the administration to get that information basically overnight.
So then we asked Mark, and Nancy, actually, you had your hand up. I don't know if you wanted to.
The only thing I would like to say to the board is that, and to the community members, is that when you wear a mask, you are protecting both yourself and others. We are not in any way, shape, or form saying that people cannot continue to wear a mask. We are simply giving people a choice based on CDC and Vermont Department of Health guidance and guidance to the governor, from the governor and Dr. Levine. And I think those are very important distinctions. My own parent has a chronic illness. He's 83 years old, and I will continue to wear my mask whenever I go to his house. If I was in a classroom where I thought there were students at risk, where I knew there were students at risk, I would continue to wear my mask. I think it's a matter of, I think it's I don't think you can, I think it's a very slippery slope to say we're going to follow CDC guidance for some, but not for all. And that's my input as both a mom and an administrator in this district. And I will also say I just finished reading an article a short time ago regarding the fact that children in ages 5 through 8 are developing empathy, and most of those students are very far behind since COVID. And part of that is that they have not learned to read facial expressions. So.
Okay, so I'm going to ask if any of the other principals or if Mark has anything else to say, then we'll listen to these.
Two non-board members, one employee.
That's going to be the end of.
Can I ask a specific question though? We only heard from the secondary grade, which is regarding processing with students. And could you maybe share a little bit about what the younger grade those conversations look like? I feel like it's a different population of kids the way we approach it. Is that maybe I'm wrong? Maybe it's been represented the same, but I just feel like my own kids' experience. We talk about their learning empathy, and it is. I feel like I'm seeing younger kids that the idea of choice is really resonating with them. So I'm just wondering how maybe the younger grades are approaching this, where you might have a 4-year-old and families that are going to be diligent.
They, so far, we talked a little bit about this today at school. Students have been really honest about saying, like, some students say, I'm still going to wear my mask, and some students have talked about that they may choose not to, but they've been very, open about understanding the different reasons students have. They've actually already had a lot of experience with this because this pandemic has played out in such different ways for different students. Just in terms of the quarantines that we had to do, and some students had to quarantine sometimes and some didn't, and it's been incredible what these students have endured and the amount of grace they've extended to each other at the lowest levels, the lowest grade levels. Like, they just have incredible grace. So one teacher I was talking to today is like, yeah, I actually talked about it with students, and I took a little poll, and about 50% of the students are going to keep masking in this class. Which says a lot, I think, because it shows you how willing they are to just be themselves. I'm going to make a choice to mask. Maybe you're not. We're in the class together. We just continue on. So they had a lot of practice doing that around other protocols and strategies we had to put in place. So I'm confident that they'll continue to do that quite well.
Can I just say something quick? I think of things from the perspective of Department of Health. We've been working with the Department of Health from the start. They've been pretty accurate in their recommendations, and they've worked for our schools. And the Department of Health is going based on a lot of data and science, looking at trends, working with the healthcare professionals. And I don't think this decision on the 14th was done lightly, with a lot of kind of science. And that, to me, is you put the faith in the professionals who are studying this every day. And they also, if they've responded when the data has changed. So if they do optional masks and the trend starts to trend back towards increased cases or hospitalizations, then I would imagine they would reconsider the data and their recommendation. So that's just that's just my feeling on it, and I think that that's a pretty reasonable and sound approach to how we should be handling it. That's just my thoughts.
Well, we followed the Department of Health from the beginning. There have been controversial changes to mitigation approaches, but we have learned from each of those changes, and they've worked out well for us. We were spending our entire weekends contact tracing. We moved away from that. It was a good decision for the health of our staff. So again, we're at another moment in time with a change, an approach change. And again, it's guided by our state health officials. And I am comfortable following their guidance, as we have done as an entire school district since March of 2020.
I could just talk to the process a little bit at Oak specifically. We had a staff meeting today, and I wanted to make sure that this was something that we talked about as a faculty. And, you know, really doing some pre-teaching the rest of this week, and people have already started about what it looks like in a classroom if some kids are wearing masks and some aren't. We have a social emotional learning curriculum, second step, that we use, and our counselor teaches that, and this topic just fit right into one of the things that they were talking about, that not everybody makes the same decisions, kind of thing, and people have different feelings about things. And so in one particular class, they did a class poll similar to like Julienne's teacher, where kids would stand in one part of the room if they thought maybe they wouldn't wear a mask, in the middle, and then on the side if they were going to keep their masks on. And it was an opportunity for kids to see what other kids were thinking about and hear like why they were making those decisions. And these were second graders who could have that conversation. It certainly has come up at our pre-K level because they are the kiddos who can't be vaccinated yet. So the teacher has brought that up. But they spent a good amount of their day unmasked together anyway. They are outside a lot. They have had to eat together at tables all year, obviously unmasked during that time. And it's hard for 4-year-olds to keep those masks up over their nose, but they've been doing the best that they can. It's also, we've had this decision made. The governor did his whole press conference, and if you watched it, he gave some really great examples as to why masking would go away in schools, and Mark supported that decision, and I think principals in turn then supported that with staff, and to go back, and with kids, to go back now and to take that away from the kids who need the break. I fear that will give even more, it will make it even harder for those kids who have been working really hard to keep their masks on. To take that away from them could be hard on them and hard on the staff who have to implement the mask wearing. So if it is safe, which the Department of Health is saying it's safe right now, I think we need to give kids, and I think we need to give staff the break. I will continue to wear a mask, you know, and I know a lot of my staff members will, and I know a lot of my kids will. But I know I have kids that need to take their masks off if we're going to be able to accomplish the rest of them.
So afford them the option that the health guidance has been directing us.
And if we get to a point where it goes up, they will be happy to put their masks back on to help the community.
Yes. And we have plenty, we have a great stock of tests that we can supply to staff and families.
So at Guilford Central School, we began the process yesterday with our morning meetings. So part of our normal routines is every class has a morning meeting at the very beginning of the day. It's community building. It's also works with the social curriculum, learning life skills, etc. So we began yesterday with preparing children and really tying in the issue of masking or not with our core values of respect and kindness, responsibility, and safety. And so aligning those conversations with this, this idea of unmasking, if one chooses to. And the reality of the situation is that it will be families who will choose for their children whether they're masked or not. I had a very thoughtful conversation with a 5-year-old student in kindergarten yesterday who stopped me to express their great delight on the fact that people will not have to mask next week. However, their mother, she was certain was going to make her continue to wear the mask. And that, at least as of yesterday morning at 9 a.m., she was fine with that.
That's a good community.
So I supported her thinking. Then I led a 6th grade morning meeting where we talked about the issue of masking. And again, our 6th grade was very much like, I think, Julianne and Mary's experience, where it's a mix. And it's really important in this day and age that the children are having real practice in civil discourse, practicing democracy in a very relevant way. And so I think it's going back to not too much jargon, but there was this dude back in the day, his name is John Dewey, a good Vermont person. We talked about schools being cradles of democracy, and that schools need to be relevant and meaningful to kids' lives. And this is certainly an issue that I saw yesterday among my students, where they were practicing democracy because they were talking to each other. And so that to me is one of the most important things that we do as educators. I also want to bring out that our school nurses and our COVID coordinator really have been giving us great guidance through all of this. And much of the details in the real work, some of it hasn't been decided yet. As Mark spoke to, is that the COVID coordinator and the school nurses as a group meet each Wednesday. So tomorrow they're meeting, and they'll be talking about really important issues.
Recording in progress.
And that extends to how do we function in terms of our lunch times? How do we function with our all-school assemblies? What is band and music going to be looking like? All of these granular details that play into this decision around to mask or not to mask. So there's much yet to be known. And so I am looking for that guidance, which we have followed faithfully since the beginning of this pandemic. We have looked to the healthcare professionals, not only the CDC and the AOE and the Vermont Department of Health, but right here at the local level, our school nurses and our COVID coordinator. So that's...
Okay, so it looks like there are 2 more people in there. It looks like it's Emily and Michaela. Even though this is going longer than really longer, it's obviously an important issue for people. And so I'd like it to go no more than 6 minutes, if we can possibly do that. And then I will extend the invitation to people if they have other thoughts, concerns, questions, whatnot, to communicate to us, to the superintendent's office, to the principals, to anyone who they feel is appropriate. So Emily, since she's a member of the board, so.
Emily and then Michaela.
Michaela's just been waiting so long, so it's fine for her to go first, and then I'll just close. Mine's a closing thought anyways. It's probably most appropriate at the end.
Thank you, Emily.
Mine is off topic, but I have the teacher leaders who've been waiting for us to do a presentation on curriculum, and I just want to know if it's not going to happen tonight, if I can let them go. That's what because it's 7 o'clock, and we were supposed to be at the top of the meeting possibly, so they've been holding on a long time. So that's, if we're ending at 8.
My apologies, I didn't realize that. I don't see it on the agenda, hopefully my next meeting I will be much more on top of it. But I don't think it's I'm not sure that it's on the agenda, so maybe we can schedule it for the next meeting?
Well, it is on the agenda.
Is it?
Yeah, under unfinished business.
So, Mark, would it be part of your report and will it go next? I just want to know because they're like, you know, they're been held up. And so I want to be respectful.
Can we change the order of them?
You had to do it at the beginning of the meeting.
Oh, no. Okay, so then we can just have them be for the next.
Or next time. Yes.
So can we do that? I mean, can they come for the next meeting? And we can make sure to have that at the very beginning?
That's fine with me. Mark, is that okay?
Yes, it is, Michaela.
And
Sorry
again,
you had to wait.
My apologies for that.
Can I just slip in a follow-up question?
All right, sorry, thank you.
Before Emily
Thank
does
you,
Michaela.
I'm sorry.
I just had a follow-up question because that John sparked before Emily, since she has a closing thought. I felt like I wanted to sneak this in. You raised a good question when you were talking about kids, a child being excited but their parent making a different choice for them. Will the schools be able to support parental choice when, I mean, that's a lot of knowing which kid is supposed to be wearing their mask, or is that just, is that got to be, parent directive and really communicating with the child?
That will be a challenge, and that is an agenda item that the nurses and COVID coordinators are talking about tomorrow. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're up, Emily.
Okay. So I wrote down a thing so it could be succinct. I know everybody's working so hard on this, and I appreciate all of the hard work and looking at guidelines and working with nurses and COVID coordinators. And I mean, everybody's being so thoughtful. But I just have to say what my gut is feeling about everything is that my problem is not with decision-making. Kids making different decisions is definitely okay by me, or parents making those decisions for the kids, I guess. But it's about some kids and some parents not being able to make a decision. So some kids and some parents in our schools, aren't having the option to be vaccinated yet. And they're still then going to be in the schools, So, I mean, we might be saying, oh, well, it's for the best of the whole population. And it's only 20 kids. So kind of, oh, well, not really. Nobody's saying it to be hurtful, but that's kind of the case. So, I mean, I'm open to having a meeting on Thursday about this and hearing more. I don't know that there'd be more information, but I also don't know that other board meeting members I don't know the sentiments of other folks. So it would have to be wanted by everyone. But if not, I would like to encourage Mark to express severe cautions for the guidelines of preschool and kindergarten, which I know he's already going to do, but I have to say that. And, being more, maybe it's that we have to be more strict for those grades and really strict in public settings. And for those who have siblings, well, that's the risk I guess we're going to be taking. But I just wanted to say that because that was on my heart and mind.
I'll just share that there will be follow-up communication after the nurses meeting tomorrow afternoon with the COVID coordinator, and then discussions with admin. So that will be forthcoming by the end of the week.
So would anyone on the board want to add that to the meeting on Thursday?
I think it sounds like that might be soon, but also there's another, Demerson's Leadership Council meets at 6 o'clock. So, and I know we have an executive session that is, I don't know if we can predict how long that is, but it doesn't seem like a conversation we're gonna be able to cut short. So maybe I would love to have any information that Mark could share with us or the principals, just so that we can be chewing on it.
So put it off for further down.
I don't think it's going to be enough time, and I think that community outreach, people will want to talk about it. Leadership, it's worth reaching out to leadership councils maybe, and just getting more community voice on it. So
just to be clear, like a decision was communicated to our community following Vermont Department of Health, which we've done from the beginning. And that is the current guidance from the Department of Health, the state of Vermont, the town of Brattleboro has been following the science on this. Our health professionals that we employ in our school district are meeting tomorrow. They are going to help draft a statement that will go out to the community addressing some of the things that Steve brought up earlier, intensive services, preschool, the nurse's office. More clarity on those differences in following this guidance will be shared with the community prior to this weekend.
So we should wait for that, and then if we have questions, concerns, whatnot, maybe then communicate?
Yes, you can communicate that, but, you know, from the very beginning,
Yep.
I have, you know, been the one who's been communicating with the community and sending this communication out. And again, it has been to follow the VDH, and they have led us very well up to this point in time. And that's the current guidance for our state.
Okay.
Liz is handed up.
Oh, then, okay.
Liz?
Yeah, I have a question. So if there's a child who's severely immunocompromised in the grade school level, will the district provide support to that family if they don't feel their child is safe in school to continue their schooling at home? I think that question will come up because I think there are parents who will pull their kids out of the school if they don't feel that their child is safe enough.
Want to respond to that?
Again, a statement will go out that our nurses will leave and will clarify differences in intensive program services, the recommendations in those areas, same with the nurse's office. And like anything, if there is a specific concern that a parent may have, would encourage them to contact the school, and we work together to develop a plan that supports that family. Just like through the IEP process, 504 process, EST process. We provide accommodations to kids in our school district. That's what we do. So.
Can I speak? I want to caution us against disappearing a subset of the population from our communities. So when we make decisions and we say that, okay, we'll accommodate these students and they can learn from home, what we're doing is disappearing them from our schools. So as we talk about this, I want us to think about the most marginalized among us. And that isn't limited to race and gender in class. It also includes disabled students, students that might have immunocompromised. And I really want to make sure that we're considering those students, even though they might not be a larger part of our population. So, and I love hearing from the community. I think we need to talk about this more and really make sure that all the voices are heard.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on to the administrative report on retirements and resignations.
Sure, well, I'll give an update, a school district update first before the resignations. As a school district, we're settling in after a much needed February break. And I just want to say, as I have repeatedly, you know, our educators, our students, our administrators have been through a lot this year. And having that time to reflect, to rest, is needed more in these last 3 years than any other time in education. So again, I just would like to publicly thank these folks for their leadership and the commitment that our educators continue to bring to our communities on behalf of our students. I think that's very important to state out loud. Moving forward, I would like to share with the board that we are actively engaged in a principal search at Putney Central School. I will be meeting with their faculty council tomorrow afternoon. We'll be reviewing resumes and a draft of interview questions. We will begin interviewing candidates next week with the goal of identifying the next instructional leader at PCS before the first week of April. And I believe we are on pace to succeed in that goal. So that's where we are.
Repeat that, please. Next week, what's happening?
Next week, there will be initial interviews for the next principal of Putney Central School. And our goal is to identify the next instructional leader at Putney Central by the first week of April. And I believe we will be able to maintain our timeline that we established a month ago.
Can you say how many candidates?
I'm not going to share that at this time.
So, are there any retirements?
Yes, we have 4 resignations. Throw it over to Steve for the high school.
Sure, we have two resignations. First, Rebecca Savage in our English department. She's been with us for a year. She is moving with her family out of state. And also, longtime Spanish teacher Angie Dodd, who actually started off as a parent at Green Street and taught Spanish at WHS for many years. She's also stepping down. They'll both be a huge loss for us, and I would ask that the board accept their resignations.
So moved with regret.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded, moved by Ann and seconded by David. All those in favor of accepting with regret Becca Savage from the English department at the BUHS and Angie Dodd,
yeah.
Angie Dodd, thank you, Spanish teacher at BUHS, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so accepted with regret.
And Kelly, we also have a resignation at Oak Grove School and Guilford Central. I'll have Mary and John present those.
Thanks. I have my BCBA, Sandy Stockton, is resigning at the end of this school year. She's been a great asset to Oak Grove School. We've worked really closely together. Huge loss for me. We will miss her, but she is moving on to another state, to a new family home. So.
And what was the first name?
Her name's Sandy. Sandra.
So, all those in favor of approving with accepting with regret the resignation of Sandy Stockton from Oak Grove School?
Aye.
Lana has.
We haven't had a motion.
I'm sorry.
We haven't had a motion.
Say so.
We haven't had a motion.
So moved.
So I misspoke. Thank you. So a motion to approve the resignation of Sandy Stockton, Oak Grove, and it appears that Lana was making that motion.
So moved.
Okay.
I'll second it.
And Michelle seconded it. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay.
And at Guilford, Michelle Nelson, who has been with us for this year, 1 year as an academic support teacher. She has tendered her resignation. Michelle is a fabulous educator, and her passion is working with older children. But when we were in need of an academic support teacher at the very beginning of the year, Michelle stepped into the fray, and she has done an incredible job for us. So it is with deep regret that I bring her resignation to the board.
Do we have a motion to accept with regret the resignation of Michelle Nelson, the academic support at Guilford Central School?
So moved.
Michelle moved. Any second?
Second.
And Ann seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? And so that concludes the. Okay, so now on to the fiscal report. Now, some of this, we went a little long on the mask and that sort of stuff, so we may have to cut some of this, I'm not sure. Any suggestion from any board member?
Well, we can't cut the capital plan.
But any suggestion on sort of some that can be sort of.
I suggest that Frank takes over because he's the most concise talking about it.
Okay, please do.
Kelly, before we swing it over to Frank, I guess Green Street School has a new hire to present.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
I didn't know that.
So.
Can I begin?
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. I'm excited to nominate Chrissy Cologne-Bratt as our library media specialist for the 2022-23 school year. Chrissy has had experience as a classroom teacher and most recently as a director of diversity, equity, inclusion. And the committee was excited about her innovative ideas around engaging families and collaborating with staff. And we are really excited only because also we've been without a librarian since the first month of this year, and that's been really difficult. There were very few applicants. We were lucky to receive Chrissy's. She seems amazing, but I just want to put it out there that this is a trend that we are seeing, very few applicants for positions in these times. So I just want to express that.
Wendy has her hand up.
Okay, Wendy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did get the spelling of the names of the resignations from Barb Nowakowski, but I didn't get it for the new hire. So please instruct someone to send that to me. Thank you.
Could you send it to Wendy and or me? Okay, all those in favor of adding this person to the, as librarian, Chrissy Cologne-Bratt, did I get the name correct?
Yep.
Okay, great. As librarian to Green Street School. Oh, actually, I forgot.
So moved.
Anne moved it.
I'll second.
And Michelle seconded it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All the, any opposed? Okay, that will be my last error. Thank you. And now on.
Okay, I know you were a little pressed for time, so I'll go fairly quickly. So the agenda does have two motions. One motion is to approve the capital plan for fiscal year 23, and the second motion is to approve a project in this current fiscal year that I didn't already have the board approve earlier. Otherwise, the board has already approved fiscal year 22. So I've handed out the capital plan. I've got the same document here that's on the website, and we'll go through it. I want to introduce Robert Clark. He's the Director of Facilities for the Supervisory Union, which is oversight for all of our schools. And Robert's just been a terrific asset. He's been here, I think, what, 2002? How many years?
23. This is on my 23rd year.
23rd year. And he's just done a tremendous job over those years and continues to grow professionally and contribute in a very important level. One thing that relates to Robert's service here, our guiding principles for the capital plan. It's the work at a very professional, very informed level on building standards, established energy efficiency, proven technologies. Here's a list in this document of the many projects that we've worked together on to make a substantial reduction in fossil fuel dependence, which includes also moving away from just the generic electricity from the utility, and we've got all of our schools on solar array through a net metering agreement. So the capital plan reflects all of this work. And you see here we cite board policy E14, which is absolutely part of the driving force for planning and implementation. There's a lot of laws and rules, regulations we have to follow in order to qualify not only for any kind of grant funding, but also just to spend public money. Capital projects are subject to the bid law. There's a number of thresholds for bidding, and you most recently, for the members that were here for the Academy project, went through that pre-qualification, notification, and selection process. So one thing I'm hoping you feel prepared to make a motion and address the warning. One reason for the formality of that is for us to access this out of the 3.3 million in spending, this 1.85 million in funding. I have to submit board meeting minutes indicating that the board has approved applying funds to these specific projects. So it's just another one of the many hoops that we have to address as we go through the labyrinth of rules and regulations to implement the capital plan. So just keep in mind when I'm done the overview, which I've done in detail with the Finance Committee, sorry for Deborah and Michelle, you were at the meeting, and this is a repeat of that. It's what we had also done back in October and November and December as part of the budget development process for the Windham Southeast School District. And by the way, all of these assumptions are in the fiscal year 23 plan that has been approved on March 1st by the electorate. And Wendy, I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes, Frank, I can hear you fine. Thank you so much.
Very good, because I am going to be specific about several projects, and if you could get them in the minutes, that will help us access the 1.8 million. So the way I thought might be concise and informative for the board and the public is we'll start with the summary document here so that you have the big picture. So I'm asking you to vote on a motion to approve the capital plan in the amount of 3.347. So that's 3,347,500 for the fiscal year 2023, of which 1 million, right down here, 1,885,000 will be applied for in either ESSER or indoor air quality funding. And it is identified at each of these building levels. It's given the information in two formats. One is kind of the infrastructure, what's being improved, and the other is by building site. I think because most of you are more familiar with building sites, I'll just highlight here are the improvements in fiscal year 23. And as I say, the most significant project in fiscal year 22, as you can see, is this 2,097,000. You've already voted on that, and many of these other projects. So we're considering moving forward. Feel free to interrupt if you have questions. So that's the list. I'm going to go through the federal fund requests fairly quickly, and Robert, feel free to chime in. Here we go. We'll go by site, school site. 200,000 is the estimated for a hot water distribution system. For this, basically, it's the infrastructure to heat the building, and it's upgrading the systems that were put in 2003. So they've reached their useful life. By the way, the format of this report is the same for each building. It's heating systems, control systems. You see on the left-hand side here, roofing. It's the safety and mechanical lighting systems, and then we have the security, any kind of exterior thermal properties that need to be addressed, doors, windows. And then there's always the inevitable kind of specialties within each building where there might be some customization. So that's the format of the capital plan. And here we go. The 200,000 for the thermal, 450,000 is a related project. In 2003, many controllers exist throughout this building. I don't know, maybe like what, Robert, maybe 600-700 units. These are controllers that read temperatures, they turn dampers on, they control valves, they tell the boiler to come on and off. It's the communication system that essentially runs the system. Those components are failing and they don't manufacture them any longer. So Robert has a specification ready to go, assuming we have a favorable vote tonight, to get that project moving forward. That one is also ESSER funded, along with the ASHRAE study. As soon as the pandemic hit, Robert was in 450 classrooms measuring airflow based on the new standards that the Vermont Department of Health and the Agency of Ed recommended that we review. We identified some units that are simply undersized for the volume of air that is expected to move. But these are also systems that were installed in 2004. They reached their useful life. So this is another ESSER or indoor air quality funded project. Cooling in summer programs and after-school programs. Keith has made that request based on the Dean's program and a routine use of 4 particular classrooms. So we're moving forward with that. I am kind of skipping over these other smaller projects that are not ESSER funded, but they're on the website. If you have questions, feel free to inquire. So we're just about done with the high school's proposal. $100,000 for it's a locker room upgrade that addresses student privacy, the ability to engage more in activities, physical education activities, and feel confident that they can change and, or if needed, shower with privacy. The facility hasn't been upgraded since it was built in the 1950s. And I think this is our last project on the document. I did want to talk about the Natowich Field. Tim had asked the question about that. But Sawyer Field, another ESSER-funded project associated with installing bathrooms on that field. Originally, I think the intent was students would access the Career Center building because it's not too far away, but it's become apparent that's very inconvenient for students and spectators. So that's an improvement that's needed. Those are the ESSER-funded requests. So at the high school and bands in the Career Center, that's $785,000 worth of projects. That is part of $1.6 million. And then just coming back to the Natowich Field, it is the one project that we really haven't revisited since the discussion that came up in 2019. So this is a minimum reserve in funds to address the very uneven grass surface, and the goalposts are about ready to fall over. They're a safety issue. So for fiscal year 23, that $125,000 is to, at a minimum, smooth out the field, crown it so it drains properly, and begin to address the other safety issues there. But the intent is to come back to that when the board's ready to get that on the agenda.
Frank, just to clarify, we have a like some kind of a work study on the project that needs to be reviewed before that one can be put into action?
Yeah, there's something called the GUilford report. The board asked for a professional assessment of the campus, best use of all spaces. Steve has that report, and it's just a matter of board scheduling time to review that.
Is there an optimal time that work might be done in the year? Like, is this sort of spring or summer, if we could get it on there so we can get moving?
Can I comment on that, Robert?
At this late time, we missed the window this year.
Missed it? Would it be optimal to do it over the summer, or is there a certain season, just so we could schedule this?
Well, yes, we'd have to definitely do it over the summer because the playing season is coming. it's Natowich Field, so.
Right, it's in use now.
It's heavily used
Yes.
by the community.
I'm just thinking if it's been sitting there since 2019 on the to-do list, we should get to it. Is my thought process.
Yeah.
So
It's not from lack of effort on my part.
And the GAIL report, GAIL is the company that did the report, and part of what we paid them for is for them to come in and present to the board.
Okay, so we need to organize with them.
Right. So we need to schedule it with the folks from GAIL if they're still willing to come in. I mean, it's been over a year.
They've reached out to us several times. What are we doing? What are we doing? And it just hasn't come up. So.
Yeah, just a comment. 3 years ago, the different board established a public advisory committee that was made up of Marilyn Chiarello, Mr. Rhodes, Dan Normando, and others. The last time they met was April 7th, 2020. So just a suggestion going forward, I really urge you to reconvene that committee.
Right, that committee was, part of their intention was to help meet with the folks from GAIL in preparation for the report. So that committee completed its task. So now,
no, that committee was supposed to come with a recommendation to the board.
Right,
we can look at the video.
Right, that GAIL was going to present.
Well, that's not.
That's part of what we
review that.
That's part of what we paid them for.
Yeah, it's all in the video, so we can review.
Sure.
I know the committee does not feel that it's been dismissed. They're just been waiting. When are we going to reconvene?
Right.
Frank, was there? I recall that a couple of years ahead of that, 2020 and 21, there was also money in the capital plan for those 2 years. Wasn't there 125,000 each of those years?
For which years?
For the Natowich Field resurface? Weren't there?
Yeah. When the board said no, let's stop the bid process for it would have been in 2020 and 21. Yeah, when the board said let's stop the bid process, it basically took the project off the.
So that money that doesn't go in the bank and get saved.
It was not spent. Yeah. So yes.
It's in our reserve.
It stayed in the reserve. So it's a good question when you look at the bottom of this document. Here's that reserve balance that you're referring to. So like in fiscal year 2020, it was 1.2 million, and then we spent 280,000, but we put in some general fund transfers, so that 1.2 million grew to 1.5 million. You see here, and then in 2022, because those things were not spent, the fund balance grew in that fund, and that is the way the cash flows go through the capital reserve fund. We take what our beginning balance is. So for this period, we're thinking we're going to end up with 1,295,000 this fiscal year. We're going to spend 565,000. The tax rate raised 275,000 that goes into this fund. But the difference between spending 565 and 275 is a negative 290, right? So that's being drawn from the fund. That's why we go from 1.5 million to 1.295. In the projected year, we're looking to spend 1.6 million, but we have 1.3 million in resources. So again, we are drawing on the fund. That's what it's for.
Well, let me ask the question a different way. What I was wondering is, do we already have 250 and 75 from last year, so $325,000 like set aside for resurfacing Natowich Field right now, or do we not have access to that money because we didn't use it then? So we need to have 125,000 to be ready when we do the work.
Yeah.
So is that money in the bank? Do we have like $500,000 pretty much ready to go?
Yep. That bottom line right here, fund balance, that's cash. So as of the end of June of 2021 was our most recent audit. They audited it, and you see where it says audited there. Yeah, that's 1.58 million in cash. And then all of the projects coming at us this year total 565,000. Now this is just for one site. We appropriated 275, so again, that's cash. Okay, so we're going to draw down the $1.5 million in cash by this 290,000. And as long as we stay on plan, we should have 1.295 in cash at the end of June. this June of '22. And then if we proceed with this plan that I've just reviewed with you, and we spend 1.6 million, and I get the 785,000 from ESSER, and we now know that the voters just put in the 575, right? So we will have $969,000 in this site reserved in cash for the projects that are all identified into the future, current and future.
Emily has a question.
So I actually had two questions. I wanted to clarify what David's saying, just so I understand on this budget. So what you're saying, Frank, is that any money that was not used was recycled back into the reserve fund balance. And but the question is, if you go back up to Natowich, so just so I could see it on the screen, I have it on my phone, but it's so small. If you can go back up, yeah, that's better. So when we go back up to Natowich, really what we're seeing here is that the 75,000 was recycled, put back into the fund balance, the reserve balance. But before 2022, there was never any funds put towards Natowich.
That's right.
Oh, okay. I had, for some reason, I had thought that there was like conversation about, oh, we already put this money aside for this. So, okay, that's good to know. The second question I have is about the locker rooms. So I remember a conversation back in maybe 2019 came up, or maybe it was 2019, I think, about the locker rooms. And there was kind of the girls' locker room was very different from the boys' locker room. So I guess I just wanted a little clarification, if you have it, what is exactly being done to the locker rooms?
You want to speak to that, Keith?
Yeah, I can't speak to the high school locker room. Well, I've been in the boys' locker room of high school, but I can't speak to the high school locker rooms. The middle school locker rooms are pretty similar, I think, but they're just from 1950 something, and they're really not. They're really out of date. The showers are pretty disgusting, to be frank. As much as the custodians try to take care of them, it's just rusted. Tiles are all, it's in bad need of repair. And the kids don't really have a private changing area. And we have more and more kids that, I mean, I remember we were all really uncomfortable back in the day changing, and it hasn't changed a bit. Kids are just more willing to kind of talk about it, share their discomfort. And so we need to upgrade so kids can feel comfortable getting ready for class.
So it's establishing showers, it's creating partitions for changing, and essentially making it a functional shower, locker room, changing area.
And I would like to make one point, that the girls do not have gang showers. That's in the boys' side.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
In the boys' locker room, it's similar. In the high school, boys and girls' locker room, it's an attempt to, we're going to create more stall space where you have an integrated shower and changing area, so you can change and shower with privacy. And then also putting in more single-use bathrooms in the locker rooms as well. Basically taking it from that 1950s structure to a structure that's a lot more understanding of people's privacy.
I'm curious what's being done for non-binary students.
That's part of it. That's why we're doing this.
Oh, fantastic. I just kept hearing girl and boy, and I was like, wait a minute, we've got others.
Well, we have, they're called boys and girls, but everyone's using them, and they need safe places.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. And putting them in a closet or whatever is not appropriate.
For so many reasons.
Yeah, or changing in a bathroom stall. Like, that's what happens, and it's not okay.
Okay, so there's 38 projects here that I'm reviewing with you, and this is, I've just reviewed 17 with you at this site. It's our largest campus, and then I've reviewed 6 out of the 17 projects, 6 that we're asking for federal funding for. And Wendy, I can help you identify you know, any more specificity. Folks are looking at my screen and I'm pointing to color-coded projects here, but I can help with articulating that if needed.
Thank you, Frank. I'll email you if I have any questions and just to kind of review what I already have on the minutes before I submit them. How about that?
Excellent. Okay.
All right, excellent. Thank you.
So our next site is the 3 Brattleboro town schools, and we have 10 projects, and 8 of them are we're asking for federal and/or the indoor air quality funding. So here we are. In the upper left over here is the school name, so the site, and again it's the same format in terms of boilers, controls, you know, fire and safety, you know, exterior and then specialties. So here we go with the Academy. I'm sorry, yes, the Academy School site. 650,000 in last year we did half of the school's unit ventilators. These are 1950, 1960 unit ventilators in each of the classrooms. They basically draw in fresh air and they heat and they exhaust interior air. Robert's work was instrumental in identifying those units that really were underperforming based on the ASHRAE standards, and that work was completed in 2020, and now we're addressing the rest of the building, and that's what this project is over here. This 190,000 two years ago is what I just referred to. Moving right along for Academy. The window project, which was part of the bid that you had approved last year, but it is being scheduled for this summer, included the window replacement. So this is replacing 14 windows in the Academy Elementary School. So we will continue to apply for funding on that. We also anticipate a playground expansion at the Academy School. They had a lot of flooding there and a lot of damage, so that playground area is being restored, and some of the structures will be applied for the ESSER funding.
Frank, can I just interrupt you for just a moment?
Sure.
Yeah, if I may interrupt, I'd like to make a motion to extend this meeting by 15 minutes in order to finish up the budget and also to get to unfinished business, the Part A sexual abuse investigation.
Is there a second?
Second.
So it's been moved by Tim and seconded by David. All those in favor of extending the meeting for 15 minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, I'll keep moving right along. Thank you. So that's Academy, 1.1 million in proposed projects, with the 650,000 plus the 400,000 being requested, along with the 75,000 in ESSER money. Going along here to Green Street, here we are. Green Street, we did a tremendous amount of work under Mark's leadership back in 2017-18. Over $1 million of retrofits in the old steam system. So not much to do here in the Green Street building. There's a roofing project that needs to get moving along, but that's not eligible for ESSER money. But we do want to address window replacements, thermal improvements, lighting. So that is the one ESSER-funded project at Green Street. And then we move on to Oak Grove. Oak Grove is our last district that's still on the oil system. Primarily, it's because that was one of the most recent facility upgrades, 2009. So that system actually still has plenty of useful life, but you know, we know the district has a very high priority on moving away from a heavy carbon footprint, And so this starts that process. The other issue with Oak Grove is it's a neighborhood school. Unlike Green Street, it does not have a coal bunker. So we just were able to open up the door and blow in wood chips without a silo or any interruption with our neighbors in Green Street, but in Oak Grove, they don't have that. So it probably will be moving toward more like a heat pump type of technology. It is a smaller building. You see up here, we have each building has a description, 30,000 square feet. I think that's realistic. So we're starting the engineering on that now. And Robert will be spearheading that shortly. Oak Grove, like Academy, has a lot of those old glass block windows, very poor thermal properties, very poor lighting properties, so that's scheduled to be replaced and ESSER funded, along with a handicap access ramp and improvements to the basketball area, which is part of the playground. And I have just recently had conversations with Mary about probably shifting some of the money from the windows to make sure we do a comprehensive job with the handicap access and the playground. So when I come to the board, I have to be committed to the total 3.3 million. But just like the operating budget, these are estimates, and when bids come in, sometimes they're less, sometimes they're more. And in this case, right up front, we recognize that we probably need a little more for the playground area, and we can defer the windows into fiscal year 24 if we need to. So that's just a reality of the way capital plans are developed. Okay, so that's the Brattleboro Town School with our various sites. Then we have the Dummerston School. Dummerston, we're doing a great deal of work right now. The oil boiler retirement has gone very well. We've heated that building with biofuel this year successfully for the first time. And we're adding this air handling unit project to really improve the whole elementary wing air quality at the Dummerston School. Substantial improvement over the original design, which had an air handler in the boiler room. Not a good idea, so that's underway. But in fiscal year 23, we also have to remove the oil tank associated with that boiler system, the old boiler system. So that's the Dummerston project, along with a number of smaller projects to upgrade their wiring. And they also have a playground project that we have scheduled for ESSER funding. And that is the Dummerston proposal, $127,000, of which 75,000 is intended to be funded through the ESSER grants. Okay, two more sites. GUilford, again, we did a lot of work in GUilford in 2021 and 2022. So most of the heavy lifting has been done. I do have a separate motion for GUilford because this is a one project here in fiscal year 22 that I'm asking for the board's approval so I can forward those minutes.
I can just say, 3 years ago, John, they visited GUilford School. You had a leaky roof. You didn't even have an office. You know, you had those awful windows. I was delighted to see that the capital plan is moving ahead at GUilford.
So again, Robert is working with engineers to properly size the unit ventilator replacements. Though I think those are probably 1960, 70 units era, 1958 era units. So that'll be a very nice improvement to the learning environment. And GUilford also has some windows that need to be upgraded. So So in fiscal year 22, we have $215,000 projects at Guilford, of which 160,000 we're seeking grant funding for, and then in fiscal year 23 we have 65,000, of which 50,000 we're seeking federal money for. And our last site, another site where we've done a great deal of work on the heating systems over the last several years. So the primary project this coming year is outdoor learning structures. Principal Pelletier has provided us with a schematic of, I think, 5 units to be built on the campus with ESSER funding. So that, when we add that all up, that is the 3.3 million in total projects that there. You saw 38 projects, of which 18 we're requesting federal funding for. So there's the review of those 2 articles that you have in your agenda, and I'd love to answer questions.
And I would love to motion to approve implementing FY23 capital improvements as presented in the amount of $3,347,500, of which it is estimated that $1,885,000 in federal ESSER grant funds will be applied for to support procurement of these improvements.
Seconded.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, but moved by Michelle and seconded by Tim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I just want to thank you, Frank, too, for this is like such an extra incredible layer of your usual job to work with the ESSER funds and to navigate all of the requirements. It's really like so much work. And you've done a lot of work for us, and look at all the stuff we're getting done. It's exciting.
It really is a tremendous impact, and obviously I can't do it alone. It's working with all of our principals, it's working with our teachers, our facility managers, and Robert's just done a remarkable job. And you know, the whole state is competing for services, and we have to create these relationships with vendors that say, okay, this is an organization that knows what they're doing, and we want to do business with them. That really matters, because if you haven't established the integrity that Robert has, they're going to go on to the next school or the next business, and it's just so important that we can move efficiently, you know, both on the bureaucratic side, which is unfortunately a lot of, you know, applications and paperwork and submittals, but also on the technical side. So we're in a great spot.
There's a deadline on having all these funds used up, right? Can you remind us of that?
For the ESSER 2 money, which is all the stuff we have scheduled for fiscal year 22, it's not until September of 2023. So if we do have delays, we have a little window. And then for the ESSER 3 money, which is what we just went over the bulk of, it's our fiscal year 23. That has a drop dead date. Projects must be completed, checks cut by September of 2024. And that is a pretty tight timeline, especially when you look at the Academy project. It took us 5 years to get where we are now, where walls are going up. So we're gonna hustle, and every day we're making progress. But this vote is important. That it authorizes me to engage engineering and the state and the federal government and so on. So if you could also vote on that second.
Yeah. I'll also motion that Guilford Central School HVAC project. Motion to approve completing the Guilford Central School unit ventilator replacement project for the remaining 8 classrooms and moving forward in FY22 with the first phase of Guilford Central School window replacements at a total estimated cost of $215,000, all of which will be applied for reimbursement by the ESSER federal grant.
Do we have a second?
Second.
So it's been moved by Michelle, seconded by David. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So we're going to put up the committee reports because I think we need to.
There weren't any. Well, what we decided when we showed the meeting was that the committees, if they had something that needed to come to the board, they would let the chair know ahead of time, so we don't have any to report.
Okay, all right. But then maybe in another meeting coming up, we should talk about if people who have been here want to stay on the same committees, or if we want to shuffle around. Or,
yeah, and for new people.
New people here, they might want to look at what we have on the website and see what it's like. You might have some interest in, you know.
As well as leadership councils.
And leadership councils, we'll talk about this too. So then moving on to the unfinished business. So if we take A, can we table the other three things? Okay. So
this is we've been asked to provide regular reports to the community about the investigation of sexual abuse, and we're very limited in what we can say, and we've been cautioned repeatedly to not try, to basically make really clear statements and not respond to questions. So we had our first meeting with the investigator last week. There will be more, and we will have ongoing reports. The report from the first one for today, March 8th, 2022, is our investigation of sexual abuse is underway, and several individuals have come forward and been interviewed. Our investigator is also researching district records to confirm details of the reports. This work is ongoing. The board is exploring options for expanding our outreach and identifying resources to help educate our school community. We encourage people to come forward with information.
So then we need to make a motion to put these other three onto the next agenda? Or?
Yeah, you can just do it.
Okay.
There is a hand up.
Okay. And sure.
Go ahead.
Me? Hi, I'm Mindy Haskins-Rogers. I'm an alum. And I just wanted to quickly address the email that I sent to the board members today, which I sent in response to feedback from affected people. And I think this is an important consideration and something you should act on as quickly as possible. So this is a suggestion or a request related to counseling and therapy that is related to the investigation. I'm just going to read it. It's a pretty brief email. Dear WSESD board members, I'm writing to urge you to provide referrals to and subsidize services from unaffiliated agencies or individuals whenever district students seek counseling or therapy that is in any way related to the current investigation into sexual misconduct in your schools. So I want to urge you to provide referrals to and subsidize services from unaffiliated agencies and individuals. I want to be clear that I am in no way questioning the integrity of your counseling teams. I'd like to highlight a few reasons for this request. One, even the most professional employees may experience unavoidable conflicts or biases as their schools or colleagues come under scrutiny. Two, students may be afraid to seek support from the school because of this perceived potential for bias and the skewed power dynamic. Three, the institution that is seeking to redress a history of institutional betrayal is not best positioned to support those who may have been betrayed. Trust has to be rebuilt first. During these last months, I've heard from not only alumni, but current students and caregivers who have expressed fear of retaliation if they come forward with complaints about their experiences at district schools. I know that student well-being is of utmost importance to the members of this board. I hope you will take steps to ensure that all students can access and receive the support they need without deterrence. Thank you again for all the work you do.
Thank you. So is there any new business?
I'd like to add something about sexual abuse prevention. Just to preface that, I brought this up a couple of times, Aaron's Law. Aaron's Law was signed by Vermont in 2009, which requires the state to provide sexual abuse prevention programs, age appropriate K through 12. In 2015, Obama made it a federal law. I think it's important for the board and the public to hear specifically how the high school and the middle school are meeting the Aaron's Law, who's delivering it, how many hours, what the content is, and et cetera. If you can do that at the forthcoming meeting, that would be beneficial, I think.
Are you referring to Act 1?
It's Aaron's Law, and it was part of the Every Student Succeed Act.
Okay.
Robin has the hand up.
Okay.
Robin, go ahead.
Sorry, thank you. I just wanted to say that I really appreciate Mindy's continued attention to detail and offers of free advice to this board. As a person who's been impacted by this type of abuse at UHS, and also as an educator, I think that a lot of people who are inside our community don't feel comfortable speaking up to these things as she does, someone who doesn't live here anymore. And I really hope that the board recognizes the gift of these very specific ideas that are centered on survivors' needs and takes up the specific advice to provide access to therapy outside the school. Thank you.
And we don't need an executive session. So it looks like that's, I just want to say one other thing, which was on agendas. I welcome any board member, if you have particular items or things that you feel, please pass those, feel free to pass those along.
Yes, I do, if I may.
So maybe.
I brought this up several times. At the next meeting, I hope that we can get on the agenda a discussion of a process to choose and to pick a student representative on the board. We have a new board, we've seated new members. Now we just, to complete the process, we need to formalize the process to choose one or two students from the UHS to sit on the board. If we can do that at the next meeting, that would be, I know some students who are anxious to see this happen.
I'll just comment on it that I know that the VSBA they had done a professional board training on just that and the topic and good ways to approach it. So it might be wise for board members to go look that up and to see something to think about. Something that came up actually while we were just chatting with Deborah and Frank on agenda items, and I know we've talked a little bit about restructure, but it would be really helpful, I think, if we maybe could share a living document with our central office that was maybe broken into a calendar, wish list, must list, just so that all the board members could be accountable for seeing what needs to be addressed so that we can be timely and efficient and not bumping things, and maybe work more collaboratively at making sure that the right things are prioritized. So if that's something that's open, I just think it's I'm not trying to step on the chair's toe, and your relationship, I would think, with sitting with Mark, it just seems like a way, and then board members could request if they have it, or principal wants to talk, and that way we can see what's flexible and what's absolutely not flexible and needs to always be scheduled. Just might be a safe approach so we don't have things not on the agenda on the right time and it gets bumped a month, that kind of approach.
Okay.
So it seemed like a good
one more thing I want to say was that I know that everyone has their own particular skills and experience and whatnot, and if they feel that there's something that me as a new chair, they feel that it would be helpful, or anytime, please feel free to contribute that, and whether it's during the meeting or whether it's, not during the meeting. So
you're off to a great start.
You're already rocking it, Kelly.
Thank you. So if we have no more business, then I think
Kelly?
Yeah.
Kelly?
Yeah.
It's Liz. We have consistently now for a long time not had enough time to do the business we need to do. So I think everybody needs to think about how we're going to handle that, because the backlog just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and we can't, it's hard to move forward when you can't even get, what's going by dealt with. So I'd appreciate it if everyone would think about how we can address that. Thank you.
I love dues.
Madam Chair, there being no further business before this board, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned at 8:15.
Thank you.